Going live. Live. Can you hear the music?
Hey y'all, y'all.
We are here.
Coming at you from the classic studio. This is kind of, guys, our new studio situation. We've kind of been transitioning more to the virtual studio now.
Yeah, it's kind of handy, we've discovered.
Yeah.
Jordan can control more things and break more things.
And it's a little more interactive with our guests.
It is, and I like that. I like being more interactive, and yeah.
For sure.
But I'm trying to talk Curtis into using a better mic.
Yeah,
so.
I'm potentially, if I'm going to get a better mic, I probably might get a better camera too.
Well, we could just use our studio camera up there. We talked about that. We could put our studio camera up there, and use one of those mics, fancier. And we can get it dialed in, make you sound a little bit less like a robot.
But it's kind of hard when I'm in the mountains like I am right now. Out here.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm grateful for the Wi-Fi I have up here.
Yeah,
for those of you who don't know, my background
I could be in
is
Pompeii.
mountain here. Oh, dude, nice! You got the Pompeii background.
I do.
Dope, dude.
It just doesn't work really well in this dark room. It likes to do my chair.
It's okay. It still looks cool.
Know. It's like, I like this creepy dog instead. You see
the stormtrooper? Yeah.
Yeah. Dog, stormtrooper. One of the two.
Cool.
So,
that's pretty cool. Well, guys, thanks for coming back in today. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
We this week has been a pretty decent week in the world, I would say. Compared to the past year, hasn't been as many tragedies or crazy turmoil events. We have a comment here real quick here. What was that? What was he saying?
One of the greatest sporting events in North America will finish about 9:30 p.m. our time, the Iditarod sled dog race. I'm sure you'll cover this. We were actually going to cut live. We have a correspondent on the ground.
As you mentioned, actually on a sled now.
His name is Sheldon. He's a sled dog.
Honestly, I can be honest and say I've never watched the Iditarod. Have you?
I have not. No. I mean, I've seen videos of it. My dad actually used to race in it. I'm just kidding.
Oh, really?
Totally joking.
Oh, I was going to say, oh my God.
I'm going to start rumors.
That's a long race, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really long. It's mostly difficult for the dogs.
Oh, okay. It's a 938-mile race.
Yeah.
938-mile race. 8 to 15 days is the average time it takes to complete. That would be an interesting thing to be able to check off.
That is a big range.
That is the bucket list. Yeah.
I don't know if I want that on my bucket list. That might be my bucket. Like that.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Have you ever had the desire, or anybody out there the desire, to go to Antarctica?
Yeah, for sure. Actually,
wouldn't that be a cool thing to check off?
One place I would love to go. Maybe this could be an adventure. Not a lot to see there, except for just the northern shore of Alaska. Like to see where the land ends and it just goes on. Like,
yeah,
I think that would be. No, I just want to see it.
Real quick, your dad said he actually raced as a dog.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Technically, he was involved in the race.
Yeah. He was lead sled dog. Like,
this might seem like a kind of ignorant kind of statement, but if you get to the very northern tip of Alaska, the most northern portion of it, during certain seasons, does it connect to the North Pole, or is there always a body of water separating
it's
the northern tip of Alaska from?
Yeah, there's nothing. And I don't know that there's any ground up there. I don't know a lot about the plates and whatever. I don't think there's actually any ground. So, my uncle's been there. I don't know if he's on here, but he's been up there and said it was. Oh,
you're right. Yeah,
it was pretty cool to see.
Okay, so yes, it's a large.
But according to Sarah Palin, you can see Russia from somewhere over there. So
it's the Arctic Ocean, up above. Alaska, yeah. Well, as our weekly updates of, I feel like my social responsibility,
I saw these links and I'm super excited because, again, I didn't follow it because I gotta
do my social responsible Link
See,
here and comment.
Amador's commenting. We must have a little bit of a delay, or Amador's a little bit behind, but he said from her house. That was to my
Oh
Sarah
yeah, yeah.
Palin comment. I can
Okay.
see Russia from
Yes.
my
Yes.
house. Yeah. I didn't
That's
actually
pretty
realize that
cool.
Alaska was. I mean, I'm sure I learned it as a kid, but forgot it. But it was actually owned by Russia, like originally. Well, owned.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Alaska.
Who do you buy Earth from? Like,
Yeah. 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 I mean, even your own house is or land under your house is kind of crazy, but um okay, so guys, social comments going on. We got to give the update what's going on in Myanmar, okay? Um just today basically, 39 more people were shot and murdered by the anti-coup, you know, security forces within Myanmar. And
just
what's
today,
happening?
right?
What was happening was the protesters were actually starting to protest now in the industrial section of Myanmar, and they actually um, set a couple factories on fire. But here's what it was: these were Chinese financed factories, and apparently the the Chinese government is, I guess you would say, in cahoots, or what's it called? They're acting as um, basically they're kind of in agreement with the coup military that has taken over the government within Myanmar.
Okay.
And so this is kind of an extension of some of our previous conversations as far as I'm very concerned about the state of our country and our world and
Mm-hmm.
China's role in dominating and kind of becoming that dictator like state to
Right.
the world. And we are seeing them kind of play those politics and get their fingers in a lot of areas
To
that are
clarify,
already starting to have
you're
impact.
concerned about our country in that role, or you're saying that just the world in general?
The world in general, but I mean, I am concerned about China as well, already
Okay.
having a lot of control over our infrastructure and a lot of other areas.
Okay.
Um, but I'm seeing it as like it's very prevalent in a lot of other countries to the point where it's destabilizing other countries, and they're contributing to that in Myanmar
I gotcha.
specifically.
Okay.
And so the protesters have recognized that to a degree that China is backing the military, and so the protesters are attacking factories that are owned by the Chinese government, basically. And so the protesters are recognizing this, and it's a pretty actually I think it's a pretty patriotic and impressive thing that they're willing to do.
Right.
Um, but it's terrifying and horrible for those people as well at the same time.
I mean, it's that point. Like, you got to wonder, like, what is the point? I mean, I guess everyone probably has their moment where they're like,
Mm.
okay, it's time to start protesting. It's time to start fighting. Like, we want to,
Mm-hmm.
like, we've had this conversation where, like, you don't want to push violence. You know, like the whole January 6th thing is like, that's not the time to do it. Like, but sometimes there is. And
Right.
what is that? And I think that we're seeing a country hit that for a lot of people. And it's like Hong Kong. Like, at what point do you, at what
And
point do you
that's
step
the
in?
thing. That's the thing. That's what's really fascinating about this is kind of one of my soapboxes. Sorry guys if this is annoying to hear about, but this is
I like
what's
it, so
fascinating
that's all
about
that
the
matters.
Chinese. This is what's fascinating about the Chinese government is they're so patient and they're willing to play the long game.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, their
I was
goal, but from what I've heard from people, is that they're to be the world superpower is 2050. That was their
yeah,
goal.
2050, 2049,
And
yeah,
what I've
something.
heard, like just kind of rumblings of people who follow that and follow the Chinese culture and everything, like one of them being like some of the people who were in the cabinet that dealt with that stuff, they said that they had moved that up because of some of the policies that went into place that was slowing them down. And so they kind of went into overdrive. So that's where
Mhm.
like these looking into like Wuhan lab, like was that on purpose? Was it leaked out on purpose? And I'm not saying that I think it is, but I mean, it's a thought. It's at least a thought experiment to say, was it to try and gain control? Because I want you to continue doing what you're doing, but just to add to some of this, like some of the craziness that like we don't hear about. I was reading an article this morning about some stuff that they were testing, like doing like games, like war games, like as trials. One of them that they did last year was a war game that was supposed to be simulating against China, And in it,
The
it's
U.S. Is that what you're saying?
the
The
U.S.
U.S. They're
versus
working. Yeah.
China. Well, basically the world at that point, but against China. And it started, no joke, with a biological weapon attack first. And within a matter of years, the world had succumbed to China in their
That's
in
fascinating.
their
So the
scenarios.
U.S. had played a war game where they predicted China would
Attack with
attack
yes.
biological warfare
Hmm.
starting off.
Yes.
Fascinating. Um,
Which is
well,
scary. I mean, you just don't
yeah,
like
and I don't think there's. I
in
think
their
there.
simulation. It was like going amongst the troops and stuff. So it was like it, it was going through the ships, but we had these reports of things going through the aircraft carriers, like COVID aircraft carriers,
Yeah.
and things happening like that. It was like that had to have been a little scary for the people that had played those games and were like, uh-oh, like did we just play into our fate? Like they did this, 6 months prior to the
Yeah.
COVID thing.
Well, whether or not it was a accidental release or intentional or anything like that, I do think there has been a wealth of knowledge and information that has suggested pretty good direction that this was at least originated from a Wuhan laboratory, from the Wuhan
I have
laboratory.
no doubts
Not
it came from there.
right, but
I
whether the
yeah, yeah.
intentionality or a mistake or something along those lines, that's like
But I would say, even if this wasn't intentional this time, if you're going through and you're being funded by some of the people in our government for
yeah,
these gain
yeah,
of function for it and everything,
right.
if this wasn't the time that you intended for it to, what were you planning on doing with it? And I would say, I have very little doubt that they were planning something, or someone was planning something to do nefarious with it.
Well, gain of, but that's, it's kind of tricky because that's what the point of gain of function research, and that's what that was funding was from.
Mm-hmm.
When the Obama administration had kind of said no, we're not going to fund that anymore, that actually was re-upped during the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's the concern during the Obama administration as well was gain of function research basically tries to enhance certain
Yes.
viral strains for the
Yes.
purpose of if it becomes a natural type of outbreak, we could combat it. But then you're playing with fire because you're creating
Exactly.
more dangerous weapons.
But what the difference is, and I totally hear what you're saying. If that was all U.S. law, right? So
Hmm.
it was held off during the Obama administration, and then it lapsed basically in the U.S. But it continued in Wuhan, and we're still sending money there. Like you can go track the money. We're sending money there for the gain of function to be done there. Why? Like it's just
Well, and
it's just
just
those
gain of
questions.
function research in general, it for it to be done and for us to fund it in another country is kind of a double-edged sword because if you're doing something and you're testing something extremely experimental, maybe it shouldn't be done in one of the most populated countries in the world with the highest density of people,
Right.
where it could have the quickest outbreak and then spread the fastest.
Yeah.
Like maybe have some type of facility researched in Antarctica where you have people quarantine for a month before they even leave the facility or leave the area, like even that is like if you're doing extremely virulent and lethal research, you should have extreme precautions surrounding that.
Jeff Mack says it's the China virus. There, I said it. It's pronounced China.
China.
Um,
China. You got it.
yeah,
China.
I call it the CCP virus because that's
Communist.
yeah,
China.
Chinese Communist Party
Chinese
virus. I mean,
communist.
it's
Yeah.
them. That's all their stuff. I don't want to blame it on the
Well,
Chinese
it's
people because
actually
there's a ton of
it's
good
not
people
just the
there.
Chinese party though. It's a lot of countries
Yeah.
that contributed and financed
Oh,
that
for
virus.
sure. But I mean,
Yeah.
they're the ones in charge of it. So it's like, was it on purpose? I don't
Which
know. But would it have
which is
been?
seems dangerous. Yeah.
And like Rachel said, I think I put that up. This could be a test, which is a terrifying thought. Like, what if there's something worse? It's just to see
Right.
how fast they could get it out. I mean, that's a good
Right.
thought.
Oh, I'm sure there
Experiment
is,
as well.
Rachel. I'm highly confident there is something. Well, there is. We know there are worse viruses out there,
Yeah.
and different types of potential, outbreaks that could have a higher lethality. But then
Right.
you got it. It's that perfect balance of lethality with spreadability, right? And
Yeah. So you have
if it kills you really quick,
the
then
R
it won't
factor,
spread as
but
fast.
I think also like you have to take into account like if this one, we know a lot about it now, and the death rates are nil. I mean, the people get sick from it, but as far as like people dying from it, it's not.
People
It's
dying have been at first a higher mortality rate than they are now. And I do believe that
that's the ventilators.
there's an acclimation of learning how to treat it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there was that. And so now it's like, okay, so if this one having those types of death rates causes this much fear and animosity between people that either, you have the mask versus no mask fight. You have the should we lock down versus the should we not lock down. The states are
Vaccine
fighting.
versus vaccine.
And this is one that's not like we now can say it's not as bad as anyone said it was going to be and it caused this much pandemonium. Imagine if
Yeah.
a big one came along.
Imagine if this is the most terrifying thing, if they were able to match the lethality of like an Ebola
Right.
outbreak with the communicability
Exactly.
of
And
this
that's
virus.
but in and of itself, like also what have you done? Now a good portion of the population, I mean, I don't know if you listened to I didn't listen to all of it, but parts of Joe Biden's speech where he's talking about by July 4th we might be able to have small gatherings and like
I get it
everyone's looking at him going, "Joe, has anyone told you that near the entire population of your country isn't listening to you now and is just doing that stuff as they please?"
I didn't hear what
Yeah,
was he
he
saying like
basically was threatening like if you don't.
continuing lockdown,
Yeah, he's
pushing
like
kind
if
of an
we don't do this and we don't see this, we're going to go back into lockdown and we're all like we're we're not listening to you that much now. Like there's certain things we
interesting.
do to like be nice. Like if I go to a small business and I know that they would get hurt by not wearing a mask, I don't wear one. But if it's a bigger store, I just walk in without one now. I don't care. And most people like if you don't, then they just do the same thing. Like it's just it. And then there's states like I was listening. I can't remember who I was talking to earlier this week. They said they had family like in Iowa, who was no lockdowns at all, and they said we watched the news and we're like, what are people going through? And there's all these states that didn't do anything hardly at all, that don't have numbers that basically have numbers that you would think wouldn't be existent based on the non-lockdowns that they had, and the states that held these lockdowns, granted some of them are the ones that have some of the most populated cities, had numbers that skyrocketed. And
Hmm.
I would say if I was to guess, I would say 80% of the population of the United States honestly doesn't care or doesn't follow the rules at this point. They're done with it.
Well, what's interesting about that is the connections of government and governors
Mm-hmm.
and the roles they've played in politics with the virus. And obviously that's a broad topic, but something fascinating connected to that in California is the momentum that's been created with the recall of Governor Newsom.
Yeah. He needs
Um,
to be gone.
and well, you know, you can preach a message and you can have your own personal convictions,
Yeah.
right? And then when you enforce those convictions on other people, but then you don't practice them yourself, there's obviously a
Him and
a
Cuomo.
discrepancy there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um, and it's so it started from the Republican Party, but now there's actually been both sides and some independents have been joining on this recall of Governor Newsom agenda or measure. Basically, they
Right.
had to have to be able to recall and present it as a vote.
It was
They had
1.5
to have
million.
1.5, and now they have almost over 2 million people that are in the process of that have said yes, let's do the vote,
Right.
organize that. Um, and for those of you that don't know, Governor Newsom has done several kind of sketchy things as far as with businesses and allowed some things that would help, like basically certain cronies and certain like movie industries, allowed them to have their movie sets, but then shut down other businesses that
Newsom
it's
is a
like a
jackal.
crime basically. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a jackal.
he
Um,
he's I was quoting Jeff Mack. He just doesn't. If you believe it, then do it. If you believe in masks and you think everyone should wear one, if I catch you not wearing one, I don't believe you. Like it's just like anything. Like your actions speak louder than what you're saying. If you say you believe something, then stick to it. If you don't do it, then don't expect other people to stick
Well,
to it.
and then what he did also more so also is, he was telling people you couldn't eat indoors, and then he went and had this massive,
Yeah.
not massive, but he had his own private party indoor restaurant group activity with friends, and then
Right.
he got caught. And at first he said no, we were outside, and then
Yeah.
he lied again.
Yeah, and then there was a
Or
picture
not,
of him
and then there was a
inside.
video
Like,
of him inside with the group, and it's like, okay, dude, you are like blatantly
yeah,
lying, and you're supposed to be guiding this, state. And so basically, a lot of
his.
sketchy stuff
My
that kind
mom
of
said
goes.
at his winery, so his
Oh, it was
place is
his own
okay.
winery.
Yeah. Your dad said it
Uh,
depends on your age as to how much you care about masks. I don't. I disagree. I think it just depends on who you are.
I
Um,
think it
most
can depend.
old people I know, they don't
Yeah,
want
I
them
think I
anymore.
think it does depend on an individual's personal preferences,
Yeah.
but then also it does depend on, I think, but your age does play a factor in your susceptibility. A 90-year-old is going to have a much harder time fighting off a significant infection than a 40-year-old,
Well,
right?
yeah.
And
It's
that's so,
they'll.
and that's actually kind of a good point of like, maybe during flu season, whatever the virus is or whatever the type of infectious, outbreak is,
Mhm.
maybe if you are elderly, if wearing a mask for yourself isn't a terrible idea.
That's fine as
Yeah.
long as it's a personal choice. And that's where it's like, I don't care. People can wear 14 masks. I don't care. I'm not going to make fun of you. Well, I might. If if you do it, you do it. It's your choice. Don't make me do it. Like, I'm not going to it yeah. I've already had it. And you know what? I had the flu a
So
billion times
I was
worse.
sitting here, I was sitting here, and I was like, man, my ear. I don't know why my ear is like really hurting me right now. And I had forgot I was playing with my kids,
Was it
with
your
my daughter.
earring?
I forgot I was playing with my daughter, and I had this clip on my ear. I was like, why is
No.
my ear burning? My ear's like really burning right now. And I thought it was my headset. I kept moving my headset trying to stop my burning earlobe. And then I pulled off. I had this thing like just stuck on my.
Speaking of clips, I've been dabbling in 3D printing and I made this clip. This is
Oh,
a
dude, that's
this
dope.
is a
That'd be.
failed one.
Ooh,
Um,
actually, we should get you into the chip bag clip game.
dude, I've been making bag clips. It's
Yeah.
and this one's an alligator. See?
Oh, okay.
Brr, brr.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nice. That's
I was
nice.
trying
I
to
like
pull
that.
up the camera for it, but I can't. It won't pull up because it's printing one right now. I thought maybe people would want to see it, but it's not
Okay, so
not
anybody
pulling up.
out there, I wanted to know if anybody out there has been paying attention to the crazy new digital world we live in with NFTs. Are you familiar with this, Jordan? Have you
Uh,
been keeping abreast of
of
NFTs?
NFTs. What is NFT?
Yes.
What's it stand for?
Non-fungible tokens.
Like cryptocurrency?
Is kind of, in a way.
Okay.
So NFTs have really been picking up steam over the past month. And basically what it is, it's a digital asset.
Okay.
So
Sounds
what
like
people have been
cryptocurrency.
doing is, rather than it being specifically cryptocurrency,
Okay.
now what it is, it's more of digital artwork or a digital clip
Okay.
or um, uh, a digital drawing, anything along those lines.
Okay.
So in the past week, there was a digital, like a 10-second digital video that a guy had made it, like an artist, basically, not Banksy, but kind of like that. And he sold it for like 6 million or something like that. It sold for a really high value,
Right. Right.
but then it resold as an NFT and sold for $60 million. So we're currently seeing this basically digital art form now being sold rather than having a physical item. It has a digital it
Signature.
assigns signature, and then it actually assigns your name and identity to that signature now. So even if somebody has, like, I don't know exactly in what format, but it's some type of locked signature to that form of asset,
Okay.
digital artwork. But so basically now, like, a lot of um, even like professional football, basketball teams, like Mark Cuban has started to jump on this bandwagon a little bit, and he's selling, like, you own the specific like NBA clip. Like if somebody like has like a professional player goes and slam dunk, like
Yeah.
that broadcast of that specific moment, you can buy the NFT to that and own like say Michael Jordan's most famous
It's like a
um,
trademark.
slam dunk. Yeah, you can buy Michael Jordan's most famous slam dunk. And so now from hitherforth, unless you resell it,
Hitherforth.
hitherforth,
That's what you're going to go with.
hitherforth,
Okay.
hark, hark.
Hark. When you hearken to.
When you hearken to this, but it's just such an abstract like concept um, of digital ownership outside of like owning a whole movie or owning. It started with like music, I guess, right?
Right.
Digital ownership of a song, but now it's digital ownership of a picture, which
That's
is a
so
piece of art.
weird.
Have you heard about this stuff? You haven't been hearing about this?
I've heard about coins that track art and stuff or say they're going to,
Yeah.
and I've just never I guess I don't understand why. Like I get currency and I understand why
Uh-huh.
some people think that it's nothing, but my argument is neither is your dollar. But
Right.
and that's easy to argue. Like your
Mhm.
dollar is only as good as the confidence that people have in it. As soon as they don't have confidence in it, then it's done. Like that's the scary world of fiat that we live in.
Yeah.
Um, and as soon as there's hyperinflation from 1.9 trillion dollars tacked on to the what debt we already had for this last year, then the risk of hyperinflation is even greater. So I get that currencies, whatever, but with art, why? Like, what's the why?
I think
And
there's a couple.
that's the question that Rachel had too. So I'm asking that for her.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess in my head, I've thought about that same thing as well. Like, why?
And Jeff said, just to so you can answer this question at the
Yeah,
same time, 'cause
yeah,
it's kind
yeah.
of the same. I must be really getting old. That sounds ridiculous.
It does sound
I
ridiculous
would say it doesn't sound ridiculous to me. I don't understand
at
it yet.
first. I think it
And
sounds
so
ridiculous at first.
like I'll pull up the article had like this weird, it was like a picture of Trump or something on it. Like you
Okay,
can
so well, that the main artist. He does really weird. His name's his name's Beeple, Beeple. And
I would
you've actually probably seen some of his YouTube videos. They're
I'm
like
sure I
really
have.
weird,
Look
like
at this
animations.
art of, selling crypto art come with a huge
Yeah.
hidden fees leading some people to lose hundreds of dollars.
So to
And
trade it and to sell it, it's not as cheap, basically, is what they're saying. Um, but
right.
so a couple things. Some of the main currencies that people are selling these digital assets on, they are using like
They use
Ethereum.
Ethereum, Wax, and Flow, which
Yeah.
would but they make so the Ethereum would be gas. I guess. Uh, yeah.
So
So that
to go
comment
back
I
to
just made
Jeff's,
to go to explain a little bit to Jeff. So when you transfer a cryptocurrency, it typically takes a network fee, like you would be paying the credit card fees that like people pay for Visa and stuff when you go and buy gas. There's like a 2.9%. So there you pay the fees when you do transfers and stuff like that, for these types of things. So I would assume in trading some of these securities, which I would consider them to be, I don't think they're really property. I think they're more security, or I don't even know what to call
well,
it. I've heard about people doing this, and this would make more sense with
non-fungible
with
tokens is what they're
art.
calling
It's
it.
like blah, 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 like whatever. I think what they're doing is the same as this idea. If you think about gaming, so people go on to say World of Warcraft. I'm sure even if you're old, you've probably
Yeah,
heard that term.
yeah.
So people go on there and they find unique items and they drop, and sometimes those items are worth money. If you're on the same server as someone, you can go and you can sell that item to them because you have found something that's rare that lives in that
Like
game.
a
I
new
get it.
skin, like a new
A
skin, a
new
rare
skin
skin.
or a weapon or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it is coded with a specific type of brand or whatever. You can't fake that item into the game on the server. The server knows the difference. And people have talked about using cryptocurrency in games, which some games do actually use this in the background. People just don't know it. It's actually written on a ledger somewhere that is backed by thousands of other servers and stuff. So when you transfer it like this, which seems like this is the same idea, I go transfer XYZ sword to Curtis for $10 because it's worth that to him, and now he owns that item in the game. I guess where my disconnect is what do you do with this art? Is it art that can be trademarked or that can be used other places that you would then license to people. And now because it has your digital signature, it can track back to you so that you make money off of it.
Mm.
I would assume that would be the same way those clips would work.
I think it's kind of like, for example, like the Mona Lisa. Okay, there's about a billion plus pictures of the Mona Lisa, right? And a billion plus copies of the Mona Lisa floating around the world, but there's only one original Mona
Right.
Lisa. And so that original digital copy is what's going to they're I think banking on retaining that value, and that's why people have started to purchase the original NFT copies
Right.
of these pictures or videos or something along those lines, because those originals are what's going to retain the value, is what it seems like.
Right.
I'm reading, which is
Rachel says,
right.
"Tell me you have too much money without saying you have too much money." It's a like, yeah, it's a good point. And then Jeff Mack, oh gosh, so funny. So it's crypto money laundering. I wouldn't say it is. Wonder if I could sell a 10-second video of me killing yo jackets for 1.9 trillion. It's worth a shot.
Try, give it a
So
shot, man.
if I
Someone's
was
willing
to
to pay for
say,
it.
if I was to be writing this white paper and say this is the use case for this, I would say expensive art probably isn't the spot for it, but items that you think might be used on the web, because I think if you could track these and their instances, like say Google Analytics with ads, you know where the ad's displayed, you know how often it gets displayed for, and if somebody wants to use your item on their page, then you can pay basically like an kind of like an advertising or a reverse advertising fee, where if your item is used that's trademarked on their page for their content, then you can make money off of said content. I think this would be great for creators. I don't think it's a great exchange of digital expensive art. I think that would fall into the show me you have too much money without telling me you
Yeah,
have
I
too
mean,
much money.
any type of expensive art though kind of seems silly
But if it's not
in and of
physical,
itself, right?
like if it's physical, I can see like you have that copy. But if it's digital, everyone knows it's your copy, but they have access to it. Like they can't come into my house and sit and experience my Mona Lisa. Like, but they could have
But
a copy
they
of.
could literally make a print. They could have, a
But it's not the
identical
same thing. Like
printing.
it's not. It's but a
Right.
digital copy is the same thing. Like, and
Unless there's a watermark, unless there's something
yeah,
that
yeah.
that makes that identifier. And I don't know, there was saying something as far as in the
What is my
background, the code, something like it has like some
my
type of
my
assignment to
dad?
it.
The link he posted in there is I'm not
Yeah,
sure what he's going
it's a
for. It's just
fish.
a
Yeah.
fish, a goldfish with a fin, like acting like a
Okay.
shark.
So I think what this is he is this saying you can buy that fine art
Yeah,
digital picture?
yeah.
Okay. That's kind of cool. Actually, no, I think that's just saying you can buy items
It's
with
wall
that
art,
picture.
home decor. I guess this could be like you could sell copies of it like this, and you own it. So if you
If it's
own, like,
licensed,
yeah, I could
right?
see this as a use case. But again, this would go back to it's good for creators. I don't know if it's great for expensive art. Maybe if you're into it, whatever. Um, yeah. So let's talk about crypto though for a second, because Jeff brought that up. This is kind of along that line. There, so there was some movement last week, and we didn't talk about it, where India's they've set a date in the sand, basically, where they are proposing a law that's banning cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, criminalizing the
Whoa.
possession, the issuance, the mining, which
Whoa.
we can talk about, the trading, and then transfers such digital assets. And
Whoa.
this is a big deal because
That's a
what's
big
funny is
deal.
when I saw this, I was like, oh, Bitcoin's going to go down. It didn't. It skyrocketed because you can't track these things. Like you'd have to you can have a Bitcoin wallet and nobody knows who you are. I mean, there's people don't know this, but there are Bitcoin wallets out there with hundreds of billions of dollars in them that nobody
On
knows.
flash drives too,
Yeah,
though.
on flash drives, hidden. They're still on the ledger, but they're stored offline and they just aren't touched. And people have them and they don't know who they are. They literally don't. But with Bitcoin slapping up against $62,000 a coin this week, my son and I did the math. If you bought Bitcoin, 10 years ago when it was 2 cents a coin, and you put $1 in, that dollar today or yesterday would have been worth $3,050,000. And that's the percentage of gain that has gone on with Bitcoin since the beginning. If you bought it at 2 cents and you put $1 in, really wish I'd put like $5 in Bitcoin about 10 years ago, but coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. It kind of makes you think like maybe put $5 in the top
Five now.
the top six
Yeah.
or whatever, top five, cryptos, and then just
Yeah.
who cares? Forget about $25.
If Bitcoin,
let it go.
if Bitcoin went to $1 million and you put $5 in today, it's like 75 grand that you'd make. So
Yeah, if it went exponentially,
but that's not.
increasing from here.
So here's food for thought. Its growth from 61,000 to 1 million is less percentage gain than it was from the beginning to now.
Oh, because it's at 60,000% gain right now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that would be.
So it seems like a big jump, but that's less growth than it's done already.
That's
so
interesting.
$5 in today, 75 grand tomorrow.
You gotta wonder. I wonder how many times we've talked about cryptocurrency and different things, and how many people out there have like decided like, let's throw a couple bucks in crypto now.
Rachel, I'll put her comment up. It's a good this is a good conversation to have, because it's like, she says he wishes he invested in Bitcoin years ago, but I get terrible vibes from Bitcoin. I don't know about it. Something is a bit off. So some of that is the crowd that surrounds it. They're a bunch of nerds and they don't explain things well.
I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah, go for it.
Real quick.
Some things to know about Bitcoin are that, number one, they've never been hacked. There's been some rumors of it, but nothing ever that's been proven or substantial. The only thing that could happen, but you could kind of recover it, is if you lost your account or mismanaged some of the funds or whatever. I've always said that when Bitcoin or something like this will go big is when it becomes easy for just basically your grandma, like as easy as using an app on your phone, which it's kind of reached that right now. And I've told people too, and I think I said it on here a few weeks back, it's like, if something goes crazy tomorrow and our money is worth nothing, but Bitcoin's still worth something because it's a worldwide currency, wouldn't you wish you had a couple bucks in it? I think I would. So to put up a question here from Amador. Lisa Cousin. There's lots of Lisas in our family. Does Bitcoin... the guy's pretty much knowledgeable. Oh, Lisa's cousin. He does Ethereum. So I know who you're talking about. He's been on CNN Money to speak about what he's done in Bitcoin. Pretty smart guy. So he may have some Bitcoin, but he has done ETH mining mostly, and he has quite the operation if you go look him up. But yes, he has done quite a bit. You can do a lot with space, especially in your Lisa. Yeah. Lisa's cousin. Yes. Okay. You just didn't do the possessive. I know exactly who you're talking about. He does ETH mining. And if you have space and you're in a spot where power is cheap, ETH mining can be very, very, very lucrative. Does the creator have power that we don't know about? For Bitcoin? No. And that's what's interesting. Also, it's...
Well, there's actually, let me say something.
They started out with power, but you can...
So here's where there is a little bit of power in that area, because the theorized creator of it,
Satoshi Nakamoto or whatever,
does have potentially a large quantity of Bitcoin currently that's not in circulation. And so because of the amount that he has, if he was to one day just randomly cash out all of his Bitcoin, that could cause a destabilization of the coin.
That was true years ago. Now it's not as great, and
not as big of an
so
impact.
It could cause a dip, but you could see that it was that account maybe, but it hasn't been touched, and there's reasons for that. There's multiple accounts that they had. Sorry, my Spanglish amateur. You don't even speak Spanish. But so at least I don't think you do. If you do, I've never heard you speak Spanish or even attempt it. So, but there's so much there's so much market cap in Bitcoin now that wouldn't have the dent that it would have years ago, because almost all the Bitcoin are now in circulation. So
Yeah,
I
Jeff
heard
Mack says he thinks Al Gore founded
founded Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Al Gore, man.
and the internet.
Al Gore was the global warming guy, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
he the one that like he
The
made a movie?
inconvenient truth. He was, yeah, he was
Inconvenient Truth.
he's
Okay,
the vice
while he was
president.
flying his private jet
Yes.
around the world.
So
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
right.
hearing a lot of rumbles of a different guy being the creator, and this guy would make it extremely concerning. So I'll give you the short skinny of what's going on. There are lots of rumors. People like rumors. People like to put those things out there. I don't think any of them are true. If you talk to people who know cryptography, finance, and all that, they all think that at least 3 people collaborated to make the original Bitcoin system. And that is because the skills required and the security that has been obtained and kept over the years from that wouldn't likely be possible from one human mind, essentially. That it's at least 3 to 5 separate areas of expertise that would take very intelligent people, and it most likely would not originate from one person. They have a pen name of one person, but even in their original white paper that describes Bitcoin, which you can still go look up, it sounds like a group or a conglomerate of people that started it for the very reason to be anonymous and to set up a currency hold or a value hold system to be secure and to keep it.
And getting back though to a little bit, I do want to hit on this topic. Did you see anything or read anything about the justification that India had for wanting to
I
ban the
did, but
cryptos?
I can't remember the details. That I could I could I could take some guesses as to the actual reasons why. And I think we've discussed them here. But did you
Okay.
have them?
I'm gonna pull them up here.
Okay.
But it seems like an interesting situation because what I imagine it being a government doesn't like losing control of their their financial
Control.
stability
Yeah.
and control. And so if India has their citizens putting money into crypto, it's not necessarily centralized. It decentralizes the funds,
Which is the
right?
point.
And that potentially decreases the wealth coming and staying in that country.
Yep.
That might be one of the major.
No, I know that that's one of the major ones, and that's what a lot of countries are going to have problems with. But like, I mean, you take our stimulus bill that they just passed this week, the 1.9 trillion, and like a very small percentage is actually going to things that they should be going to. A lot of it's just pork, and they're just like, we're going to print money. Well, they wouldn't in a situation where their money wasn't worth as much anymore, and people were using cryptocurrency, they wouldn't be able to do that. They would lose the power to do that. And that's where
Interesting.
countries would be like, they don't want to lose that power. But in my opinion, they shouldn't have had that power to begin with. It shouldn't be a power that they need to lose.
Yeah.
It should be a power that never was theirs. And it's when where countries started being corporations instead of actually being for the people that live there, and it's just about being a commodity, that we got into this trouble. I mean, if you look at, I mean, just to get, so people like, when you think about cryptocurrency, I'm going to answer one last thing that Rachel said about it. She said, "Thanks for explaining it. It's still a little suspicious to me." Yeah, and it should be. It's interesting, but if the world shifts that way, I always tell people is like, just put 10, $20 in there and do that a couple times and have a little bit in there. It's like, it's not money you're going to miss, at least for most people. And then it's just there. And if it goes up, it's fine. It's harder to tax. It's harder to track. Exactly. That's exactly right. But to put some like perspective, I don't know if anyone has if you looked at the stimulus bill. I mean, I've looked at it in some detail, but the number that struck me was this: is that since the beginning, so we passed this $1.9 trillion one this time, right? This is now a combined $6 trillion that we've put towards stimulus
Between
packages
the
the three that have
Yeah.
happened. And what people don't understand is like, that is like, a million is hard for most people to like grasp what it can do, but it's more attainable. A billion, most people think that they can understand what that is, but it really
Well,
really is outside the reach of it. When you hit trillions, those factors of 10 when they get up there. So
here's a
for every single, hang on just a second. So
yeah,
for
yeah.
every single person in the United States, when they pass these $6 trillion, that equates out to
Oh yeah.
$17,000 of debt per voting citizen.
That's bonkers.
Or if you wanna like tack it on to family households, that's $69,000 of debt that they just signed away for every single family in the United States.
Another analogy there connecting to the differences between, the amount of debt that's been added on. How much did you say overall? Was it 6 trillion?
6 trillion. Now,
Okay. So,
and what
well, real quick.
like less than like what percentage of that actually was for what they said it was going to be
Right,
for?
was actually for the, COVID relief versus
Less than
stimulus, those sort of
25.
things.
Less than 25%.
Um, so a million, let's just help people conceptualize time and the amount of money that is.
Mm-hmm.
So a million seconds equates to about 12 days.
Right.
The leap between a billion seconds is 31 years.
Yep.
So from a million to a billion, you go from 12 days to 31 years. And then a billion to a trillion, from 31 years to a trillion is 31,000 years.
Yep.
So, I mean, the amount of overwhelming debt that's added is just, and not even that I'm saying that there aren't areas of stimulus that I agree with,
Right.
but when you add stimulus and you tack on additional things that are like for these little splinter,
Well, the
cells
one
or
thing that they
splinter.
did give up, which I'm glad that they did, and I'll explain why, because people are going to think I'm a jerk. The one thing that they did remove is the $15 minimum wage. They were trying to put that into the stimulus package for COVID.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And so they got rid of it and then lowered the amount that people can make to make the stimulus. That was their like their
Yeah, they're
compromise.
like compromised. Yeah. Well, so real quick before we get too far away from it, so India, part of the reason that they were concerned about it is they were saying that they were concerned about it destabilizing their country, their wealth going to other countries and other type of organizations. But apparently, India, the government themselves, are in the process and have been in the process of creating their own cryptocurrency.
Right. Which
And
would
so,
not probably have a cap and they can control it.
or the freedom, right,
Yeah.
to be able to like transfer between other cryptocurrencies. So there is not a selfish, but there's a self-protective incentive in that area of the
Well,
government.
it takes away the one thing that this does that cryptocurrency has that other currencies don't. Well, and it adds one that's good. We should have had a better way to catch counterfeits. You can't counterfeit a Bitcoin.
Mm.
I mean, you could, but it's really, really difficult, and no one's done it yet that we know of. And most coins are that way, unless there's some sort of hack or somebody buys a ton of the coins and somehow like messes with the ledger or whatever. That's really difficult to do, and it takes a ton of money. It's not really worth it for the people that would have the money to do it. So
Mm.
it
That's
makes
interesting.
sense to tack to a currency to keep from people creating counterfeit money. That totally makes sense. But when you don't have it decentralized, you run into the same problem as you did before. Because Rachel asked the question of, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around this. If we're just printing money at this point, can't we just wipe away the debt? No, we're actually taking on debt in bonds and everything. We owe it. But here's the problem, is that when you do this, you are creating another problem, which means your dollar goes down in value too, or potential to,
Inflation.
and then what you are making is worth less. And so at some point, if your dollar becomes worth $0, now you have none of the dollars that were worth anything to pay back this debt, and you are essentially not only bankrupt, you literally don't have a system anymore. And if people
Hmm.
don't understand, like if the U.S. if the U.S. crashes like that, the U.S. dollar is what a lot of things are tacked to, and if that crashes, it's going to send shockwaves through the entire world. Which is why you see these big companies like Tesla, probably at least, that would be my guess, are putting, they put 25% of their capital into Bitcoin. So
It's a hedging your bets. It's like
yeah,
basically it's an alternative safety net if current financial establishments
right,
go under, essentially,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and you get into like a complete mess of everything at that point. But I I wouldn't say. Well, I would say when people say they have a hard time with cryptocurrency, I would say step back and take a really hard look at why you have confidence in the dollar that you have when the people that you don't trust control it too. If someone doesn't control Bitcoin that you maybe don't think or think you can trust, and the people that are handling your currency and what's going on with
Yeah.
it right now are ones that you can't trust.
And to
What's
answer
what you know?
Jeff Mack asked a very practical question. He was
Yeah,
asking, like, where do you buy cryptocurrency then?
yeah,
Where's an option? Is it black market? Is it something sketchy?
yeah. Good question.
Um, and I
You can
I
buy it in the
think one
Salem
of the
Center Mall.
well, I think one of the easiest, maybe user-friendly formats for people,
I'm not
because
joking.
most
You
people
can.
can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to have it on your at ease of access and monitoring on your phone,
Yeah.
I think the easiest access is Coinbase personally
Yeah.
for
Or
kind
Cash
of
App.
beginning or Cash App. But Coinbase is nice because you have a broad range of different cryptocurrencies and you can trade between the cryptocurrencies and the value of it. And basically, you just transfer money into Coinbase. And I think you can use your credit card,
Yeah.
or you can
Well, you can't
you can
anymore.
connect it.
They stopped
You can't
that.
anymore. Oh,
You
did
have
they?
to. You can
Okay.
you just connect a bank account, and you can just
Yeah, and then
you get.
transfer like you would with if you had like a 401k or not 401k, but yeah, some type of stock app.
Mhm.
Basically, it's the same thing. So you
Yeah.
transfer money into that
And that's your
Coinbase
wallet
app,
too, and it shows you.
and
It
that's your
shows you how
wallet
to do
too.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and then
pretty.
you can actually trade and transfer and all that stuff. It's
Yep.
really easy,
You
user
can.
friendly.
Yeah. If someone sends you Bitcoin, they can actually just like on your app, you can like pull up a code, and they can scan that code and send you Bitcoin to your wallet, and it will show up just like
Yeah,
the Cash App. It's like it's gotten down to the point now where it's pretty stinking easy. So it's
and that's actually it's a really I think Coinbase has a very good reputation as far as their history and
they do.
security. So that would be my recommendation for anybody that's kind of at the
Yeah, if anyone's
superficial.
just like, I want to have some money in there and know that it's there in my account, you can do that, and then you can actually even you can export your private keys and stuff out of it so that you can actually just take those and put them in a physical safe. And
If you
if anything ever happens to your phone or you lose access to your Coinbase account or whatever, your wallet is not tied to Coinbase, and you can actually take that code and use it. Um,
right,
so
but also if you lose your phone, it's as long as you have your access to Coinbase,
yeah.
like your login and your password, it's okay
But
if you
I'm
lose
saying
your phone.
even
You
if
still have
Coinbase
that.
goes under and you have that backed up, your account is not tied to Coinbase. Your
Right, it does not have to
your
be.
account
Yes.
when they create it is a Bitcoin wallet on the Bitcoin Ledger blockchain, and it is not Coinbase's. So
Right.
that it doesn't matter if Coinbase goes under tomorrow as long as you have that
It's very
account.
safe. Very
So
safe. Very safe. The last thing I wanted to hit on real quick, guys, before we get to our TILs and shower thoughts. This is fascinating to me, Jordan. You had brought up the link as far as the UK, a
yes,
security measure that they did,
uh-huh.
or
They're
proposing. I don't think it's
petitioning to
actually
do this.
happened yet.
I'm glad you want to bring this up because I was gonna say I want to bring up one more thing because I think this
Yeah.
all ties together as the
Yeah.
same
Totally.
type of thing. But it's I'll just since it's in mine, I'll just say what it is and then we can chat about it. They're petitioning to make a verified ID a requirement for opening a social media account, and it's gained over 100,000 signatures, and Parliament is to consider it for debate. This to me is terrifying.
Fantastic.
It's
Oh, you don't think you should have a
no,
verified ID?
no.
Ooh, okay. This is a good discussion then.
No, I think this is a horrible idea, and it's because I've read about other things where they do this. They do this in China, and and I think that
Mm,
here's what I would say. I'm not against social media sites requiring ID to be on them. I don't
Hmm.
care. Like if it's supposed to be a verified site where you need to know who I am and whatnot, and that's the purpose of it, cool. I don't want the government involved in that decision. I think there should be some anonymity because I don't have to get an ID to go and post on a message board that's physically on someone's wall somewhere, or the want and need thing at the community center or whatever. And that's what most social media is. To require it is a step in the direction of communism, in my point of view. This is what China's done with kids. So what do you do with kids? What do you do with teens if they don't have an ID yet, or they don't have that kind of stuff? Like in my opinion, I don't think a lot of teens should be on some of those sites, but that's what China thinks too, and they control their kids. They control how much they can be online. They have to have a verified ID to play online games, and it's just like this slippery slope. That's not even just slippery slope; it's just a cliff. For them to require this at a governmental level, to me, is terrifying.
So this is where I'm going to play the
Do it.
contra coup here, coup contra coup situation. Um, the petition was originally, the purpose of it was aimed at being able to prevent anonymous harmful activity, essentially. And whether that's from potentially, bot farms in
Mm-hmm.
Russia, or China,
Right.
influencing a population by having millions of posts and comments and flooding social media websites with not unverified accounts
Yeah.
to influence a foreign government,
Right.
essentially. So that, I think, is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
And I think that because the social role that these platforms play,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a significant security risk that potentially could be harmful to a country state.
I think that's a valid concern. I think that those things do exist. I don't think it would be like it would be my counter argument to like gun control. It's like, well, some people die from guns and that's awful. I think that's terrible. I don't think that means you remove them from law-abiding people who either want to
Right,
collect them or have them or whatever.
but we
But we
do control
control
who owns the gun. We do
kind
keep
of.
track
I
of that.
mean, most states like I have, like
For the
to a
most part,
degree, to
weapons
a
are registered.
to a degree, yes, weapons. But when it comes to other things, like where does that stop with? And that's a lethal thing. So it's kind
Mhm.
of comparing apples and oranges. But I'm saying like you don't get rid of all of them because someone did something.
And that's
So
right, but they're
there's
not saying
other.
getting
I'm
rid of them.
saying there's. I guess I'm saying the same as that. There are other solutions that will work besides this. Like there's great ways to track whether or not a person is a human, and we're really good at it. Um, and this
But
is
we're
not.
not. I
We
mean, the
are,
amount of
we are, but
interference
those,
though that's
but the,
happened from
I
other
think, I
countries.
think where you regulate it is you tell the companies this is the level of security for having accounts, like that you need
The
to have.
government, the government.
Maybe.
So that isn't that kind of what this is?
No, this is a
They're
requirement to
telling
me.
them, or this would be a
It's
vote.
telling me I can't have an account without giving my ID
Okay,
to
right, right,
them.
right.
So if you tell a company like this is the security measures that you have to use because social media platforms have been found to do this, take these security measures to ensure that these are human beings. Requiring me to give an ID, I think it's it's using a
Well,
bazooka when you only need a
here's
squirt gun. Like it's
also to the now flipping to the other side.
mm-hmm,
Um, Kind of a argument against this bill. Another argument would be, um, if you boiled it down, it's kind of like, imagine if you sent a letter in the mail in the U.S. Postal Service. You send an address, you write it to the address, but if you had to, no matter what, have your identification, your home address, your driver's license
yeah.
number on the return label side of it, like, and you sent that in the mail. I don't think that I always want to send something with a return,
No. Yeah, and
address on it,
that's the thing is
and that
like
that
it's
is where
it's
that
the
is
requirement
kind of
on the
what boils down
person.
to.
It's like I get where they're going with it, but at the same time, I think it's a terrible idea. And I see what other countries that are under communist control have done with it, and I say that looks like a step in a direction that's very scary. And I don't want that. Like it's going to put what's going to do is going to push people to use sites that are unregistered and off, and they're not. It's not gonna change anything. It's just gonna
And
make
to be fair, guys, just remember this was a petition in the
yeah
UK
yeah. It's not
that is
here.
being it's gaining votes, but Parliament hasn't even agreed to debate it yet. It's just it's an
Right.
interesting
But at the
uh,
same
e-
time,
evolution.
yeah. So at the same time, the same like majority of the European Parliament is welcoming the Commission's intention to oblige email, messaging, and chat providers to search all private message for allegedly illegal material and report to the police. So these are two things that are being pushed through at the same time as good ideas. So when you take one of those sounds absolutely horrifying in and of itself, the message one. The other one to me sounds super scary and a jump in the wrong direction. But when you take both of those and you put them together, what's going on? Like
Well, you end up being in
a police state.
A V for Vendetta
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah,
right?
you're
You
you're
really do.
going you're going full CCP. That's what you're doing.
Oof, it's terrifying. Oh man. Well, I think that's a good note to end it on to our
Super
TIL
gleeful
discussion.
note, people. We're going to end right
Terrifying. Oh
there.
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's freaks me out.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so TILs.
TILs. How many you got? Let's see.
I have
I got
two.
3. Okay, I'll go first.
Go.
This is something I don't know why I randomly looked this up today because I had a bunch of sugar ants in my bedroom because I left a bowl of ice cream out. And I was curious. I flushed the ants down the sink, and then I turned the garbage disposal on, and I was wondering how long the ants would live in water. And then I thought, well, how long do ants live? Today I learned that black garden ants, just your typical black garden ants,
Yeah.
can live approximately 15 years.
Whoa.
Whoa. But now sugar ants typically have a lifespan of like 3 to 6 months, but the queen sugar ant is about 7 years.
Do not eat sugar.
Yeah,
Right there.
there you go. There you go. All right, hit me.
My goodness. That's a long time. They don't
That's
live that long
bonkers.
around
I
here.
had no idea that
I was at a friend's
garden
house
ants.
the other day. He's listened and watched here before, and his son said, "Dad, there's a ton of ants in the kitchen." He goes, "Well, are you gonna do something about it?" He goes, "Okay, 1, 2. There's 3 of them." We're both
Gonna
like,
count them.
"What is a ton of ants to you?" Like,
Done. Done.
you definitely have a different view of what a ton of ants is. And those ants did not live 15 years. Today I learned the NASA. This is fascinating. The NASA Vehicle Assembly Building, so where they build the stuffs, is so large that it has its own weather on humid days. Rain clouds can form below the ceiling, requiring about 10,000 tons of air conditioning equipment to control the moisture. The rain clouds can form inside the building, below the roof.
That's amazing. That's insane.
Its
It's a
own
massive.
weather system
I'd like to
inside.
go there. I would like to go there. I'd
All
like to
right.
see that.
I want to see
Yeah,
it rain inside
let's do
your
it. Let's
building.
do it. Let's plan it. Okay. Today I learned
I bet you'd have to
the
wear a mask.
Soviets probably have to wear an umbrella or have an umbrella.
Yeah.
Today I learned the Soviets built a chain of remote lighthouses along the
Ooh.
Arctic coast, each one powered by its own miniature nuclear generator. In total, 1,007 of these generators were put in place for these lighthouses, and many of them are unaccounted for and can't be found.
This is Russia?
Yep, the Soviet Union.
They're not great with
Keeping track.
keeping track of their nuclear reactors. Okay, this
They're
blew
funny.
my mind. When you think of The Simpsons and you think of the convenience store,
Okay.
and you know who ran the convenience store in The Simpsons,
Abu?
right?
Was it Abu? Was that his name? Abu?
Apu, APU.
Okay.
What was his one of his like catchphrases?
Thank you. Come again.
Okay. Today I learned and was absolutely shocked that Apu from The Simpsons said, "Thank you, come again," only 8 times during the entire series.
What? No. Was he? What?
Isn't that
That's
wild?
shock. Yeah,
But it's like the
that's
thing, you knew it. Like
ingrained.
you knew right
Ingrained.
away.
Yeah, ingrained, bro. It's there. Wow, that's crazy. All right, today I learned that it took Bose, the headphone company, over 15 years and $50 million to create the first noise canceling headphones. They were the first company to create noise canceling
Remember when
headphones.
those things came out? It
They
was
were
like
they were
it was
huge and
magic.
stupid expensive and
They were
stupid
yeah,
expensive.
what they were like 350, right?
No, when they first came out, I thought they were like closer to 5 to 6. Some of those
Maybe.
like they
It's
were
like Apple's
stupid expensive.
headphones now,
Yeah,
ridiculously
yeah,
priced.
so
It's
crazy.
like
I'm gonna get some.
I'm gonna wear a bar of gold on my head.
Yeah. All right,
Uh,
shower thoughts. Shower thoughts. I kind of have a lot of
so
them.
do
Well,
I.
not a lot.
I have a
I
ton.
got I got five.
I'll go first. In
Okay.
Harry Potter, there were probably wizards who couldn't go to Hogwarts because they had a speech impediment.
That's amazing. I
Like
love that.
the wrong thing happens.
That's amazing. Um,
You're out.
basically, if you think about it, painkillers are the mute notification option for the body.
It's true. Take enough of them and it mutes you all the way.
Yeah. Antipsychotics are too.
Yeah, it's a mood muter. Uh, when you're sleepy, okay, it's a little backstory on why I picked this one. I was supposed to do some stuff last night and work on some stuff on my computer, and instead I accidentally fell asleep after we watched a show, and I woke up at 3:10 in the morning in the living room.
Nice.
So then you have this dilemma of, well, number one, I have to go do this stuff that I needed to have done by the morning, so I had to do that at 3 in the morning.
Oof.
But had I not, and I was like deciding to go to bed, when you're sleepy or waking up at 3:10 in the morning, the walk from the sofa or my chair to the bed can wake you up more than caffeine does.
Yeah, that walk. Yeah. I mean, I think I experience that walk if I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to like, change my kid's diaper or something like that, right? Um, or if I have to go pee.
Or if
I
you change
hate
your
a
diaper.
dude. I don't know if anybody out there experiences this, and I guarantee many people do. But I hate waking up in the middle of the night to go pee now.
Have a question.
I
How
have to do that so
difficult
much more now.
how
Now that I've aged, it
difficult would it be
sucks.
to just like get a catheter for the night?
Great question, and this is actually something I've thought about on multiple occasions. Um, not necessarily a
Like a
catheter
long drive. Like I want to
because
do nonstop.
yes. Well, here's the thing. A catheter is not the safest idea because you get infections usually. You're putting something up a hole that's supposed to be sterile, right? And you don't want to have to do that every night before bed.
So if I just
The
use
other
like
option,
a DeWalt drill into my bladder, is that better?
there
Or
actually is drains that people have holes drilled into their bladder,
okay,
but you don't want to have to do that. A little messy. Um, the
what's
other
better?
option is, of course, there's something like a wee bag, basically where
That's
it's
gross.
sticky and it just kind of sticks right over that area. That's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, especially
I've
to
thought
pull
about an
off.
option.
An
I've thought about an
option.
option is maybe so having some type of suctioning hose device that attaches underneath the bed, and it has to be somewhat quiet, right? But you want it to have negative pressure,
Okay.
so that way you just kind of you roll over or whatever position you're in, you grab it from under the bed, put it where it needs to go,
Yeah.
let yourself go, then it sucks it, and then it retracts back under the bed, and then you have to like tie it into some type of plumbing maybe or have some reservoir. But man, like to not have to get out of bed a
It's
couple
got to
times
be
a night.
it's got to be automated. Otherwise, it's just better to go just
Ooh.
walk there.
Okay, so like you press a button and an infrared location finds the area of greatest,
Can you imagine
ammonium
if
ammonium
you
output.
if you accidentally hit that button in your sleep? How terrifying that would be.
Or like somehow like it senses the wrong hole and it starts like suctioning to your mouth or something else. You're just like, no.
Oh gosh, it's
Oh
like
my god, that's hilarious.
idiocracy where he's like, put this one in your mouth, and this one in your butt. Wait.
Switch that. Yeah, that's super
Uh,
fun. All right.
go.
Losing a tooth as a child is exciting and financially rewarding often, but losing a tooth as an adult is horrifying and usually expensive.
Yeah, you give someone else money. It's true.
Yeah.
Here's one for you,
Okay.
and it's something to think about. There is a sizable overlap between people who are suddenly skeptical about what they will put in their bodies and people who would take drugs from a stranger at a music festival.
Dude, it's so true. I feel like that's like,
I
yeah,
would say that
the
to anyone
story of
who's like
so
hardcore
many people.
anti-vaxxer. I heard a term the
Yeah.
other day that
Mhm.
that it described me because I'm not an anti-vaxxer. But oh crap, now I can't think of it. It was it was like hesitant vaxxer or it was like a
Reluctant.
term that was just like I'm skeptical. But I would say that of everything. Like I'm just like everything I like want to do my own research and look at it. Like I get that. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but
Yeah,
I'm like
fair.
I'm a researcher.
That's just straight up Socrates right there, baby.
Yeah.
That's straight up Socrates. That's the theory of Socrates, man. I like it. Question everything.
Yep.
Um, okay.
I would
So
rather get out of bed. That's kind of where I was at too.
we'll
Go for it.
see. We'll see. Once I patent this thing, we'll see how much you're tempted by this
Yeah.
device. We'll see. And actually,
I have
yeah,
a name for you. It's just called the pea sucker.
a pea sucker, pea suck, pea suck. I don't know. We'll
You
have
gotta
to
be
work on
careful
that.
with names.
Yeah.
Someone might
Okay.
think
The
it's
difference.
something else.
Last, three more shower thoughts for me.
Me too.
The difference between being a know-it-all and having a wealth of knowledge is how much you talk about it unsolicited.
It's true. Yep. Very true. It's like I always said, if a CrossFitter and a vegan meet, it's just an infinite closed loop. They're gonna keep talking. Neither one's gonna shut up.
That's good. Well, yeah, and yeah, paleo.
Yeah, paleos don't talk as much about it.
It depends on the paleo.
It's true. Usually they give up because they don't know what it means. Anyway, sex robots, a thing currently, people, whether you like it or not,
Go
probably
on.
mostly in Japan, will likely, or already, be riddled with spyware and data collection.
That is hilarious.
And I don't think
And
anyone's thought about that.
that's hilarious and
If there's
terrifying.
one thing that should keep, well, if there are no other reasons that are keeping you away from said robot, think about that for a second. It is tracking
That's
you.
terrifying. All right. Turning your head towards someone requires an oddly specific speed. Too fast or too slow, and it's just weird.
It's true. It's so true. It same works with a swivel chair. It's like, oh, in The Lion King, all the animals except the insects could talk. Probably because they didn't want you to hear the brutal screams as Timon and Pumbaa massacred the bugs.
Ooh, great point. Love it. Very good point.
They
Terrifying.
should do a mashup, no pun intended, of The Lion King and A Bug's Life.
Ooh, oh, dude, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
It would
That's
not be a
hilarious.
kid's movie.
That's hilarious. All right, last shower thought for y'all.
I have one more too.
There are around as many testicles on Earth as there are people.
It's true.
Just let that sink in for a second. Last shower thought for you guys. There you go. All right,
Ugh. Here's
Jordan,
my
hit me.
here's my last one, and you're
All
gonna
right.
love this. It's gonna spark a whole debate. Humans, as we've seen in 2020 and 2021, cannot even live in harmony with their own species, and somehow are still convincing themselves that meeting an extraterrestrial species would go smoothly.
Great point. Here's my theory.
I knew it.
Okay.
I knew this would
I
spark.
just gotta say
Wait,
something real quick.
my theory:
Real quick, real quick. Let me put on my tinfoil hat. Real
lizard
quick.
people, gay frogs. Here we go.
If nothing good came from us meeting alien species other than it uniting the human species
Mm-hmm.
together as a potential, um, you know, desire to self-preserve ourselves,
Right.
I think that would be amazing. I think meeting extraterrestrials would give us a common, not necessarily even common threat, but common need to protect ourselves from the potential of outside threats more so. And so I think that would be more of a unifying find,
Hopefully. I guess
potentially.
this is arguing against that exact argument. Like,
Okay, love it.
and I hadn't thought about that. And then I was like, uh-oh. I think it was what's his face, Dane Cook back in the day said, "What if the first time we see aliens, they come down, it's a huge ship, and out steps 50-foot tall Native American Indians." He's like, "We just throw in the hat. We're like, all right, we're screwed. Good job, America. Good game. We're done."
Good game. Yeah.
Like,
UK?
yeah, no.
UK?
I think his last
Can we come
line
back?
was, "Would you teach us how to make giant corn?"
Or can we give you some warm blankets?
Yeah, yeah, seriously. Oh, too soon? Yeah.
Too soon? Ugh, too soon.
Goodness
Dude.
sakes.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much for enjoying and spending time with us on this
It's been
episode of
so good.
Testing Normal. It's been fun as always. We love your guys' comments and
Sometimes
interactions. It's
even we
super
don't know
fun.
what to expect.
Yeah. Always curveball. Always curveballs.
Always.
We love it.
Always.
But yeah, episode 94.
In the bag.
Hopefully, I think next Sunday we should be again next Sunday if everything on our schedules mash up.
My
Um,
schedule looks good. It's basically always yours.
it's usually always mine, and it's just work schedules are always changing, so that's frustrating. But that's life, and that's okay. So we will be with you again shortly, though, and
Yes.
we appreciate y'all. We hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll talk to
Yep.
you soon.
See you guys.